All right, well, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Those Nerds You Know. We are Those Nerds You Know. I am Ethan LeBlanc.
And I'm David McQueen.
Woo!
Woo! Cheers, cheers.
Welcome down. I was thirsty, I'm sorry. Welcome down. We are going to have a great episode today. Hopefully.
Yeah, we're gonna have a mediocre episode today.
we both just got done just now seeing Wonder Woman. That was a lie. We saw Wonder Woman last week.
That was a lie. It's okay.
We saw Wonder Woman last week,
radio,
and it was real good.
Yeah.
So we're just gonna talk about that today.
Yeah, let's talk about Wonder Woman.
Indeed.
What's she doing? How's she doing? Do we want to
spoil everything?
No spoilers first?
No, we're just gonna spoil everything. I don't care.
I mean, I'm just asking.
Just so you know, if you're listening to us talk about a thing, we'll probably spoil some of that thing.
Spoilers, except for this episode, I'm not going to spoil the thing I'm talking about, but we'll get to that.
That's fine. I probably won't spoil the thing I'm talking about either.
Okay, well then.
Let's
spoil this movie.
But we'll spoil this one.
Yes.
Straight up, I mean, I don't know.
So what did you think?
I thought it was great. So when I walked out of the theater, aside from being happy, I was just really relieved.
Yes, that definitely is a thing. I was talking to a coworker of mine, and we both came to that same word, relieved.
Yeah.
And that was just like we were so hoping that this was going to be good that when we came out and realized it was, we were like,
praise God. DC did it, and like, yeah, because I mean, you were saying before is that one day they were bound to get something right. I'm so glad it was this.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I wish it would have been sooner.
Yes.
I wish Batman v Superman would have been good. But
I wish they would have
pipe
stopped.
Dreams, David.
I wish they would have not called it Batman v Superman, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
I really liked it too. I liked. I thought this was definitely a good character for them to get right, especially after getting kind of Batman and Superman wrong. She's the only member of the Trinity of the DC universe that like really stands out, and to get her wrong as well would have just been terrible. Yeah. But also, like, this is a really important female character in the DC universe or in the comic books in general.
Yeah.
And I think they really, like, I don't think they could have afforded to have like done this one bad. You know what I mean? Like, I think they had to pull out all the stops for this one.
Definitely.
I think they really did. She's
easily the most recognizable female character.
Yeah.
In comic books, I think in general.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is the one you get right.
Yeah, exactly.
Of all of them, yeah, definitely. And this being the first, real, actual superhero movie with a female lead.
Yeah.
I mean, you can make mention of Catwoman, but I won't because first off, Catwoman's not a superhero.
She's basically a hero at this point.
An anti-hero.
And we might get in...
I don't care, but that movie wasn't good.
the original...
So,
the movie was not.
So,
what, you didn't like was it Halle Berry?
Sure.
I think it was Halle Berry, right? Oh, man. The torn up clothes? Yeah.
Yeah, okay. That's all we need to say about that movie.
Okay.
Wonder Woman was real good.
Wonder Woman was great, though. Wonder Woman was a lot better.
Before we sing its praises, is there anything that you didn't like?
I was just about to ask you.
Nope, got you first.
Yeah, no. I don't know. I think, I don't know. I feel like my big problem, I don't think it's not something they did, but I guess it's more something that they didn't talk about or didn't touch on or whatever. And it's more about the setting of the movie in the sense that, like, Wonder Woman, like, the movie explains a good way. So, like, we know from the trailers that Wonder Woman is fighting in World War One. And, we saw that in the picture in Batman v Superman and all this great stuff.
Right.
And in the movie, she plays a big part in that, but she plays it part in a way that it's like you could conceivably see what she did happening in history, and it just wouldn't be like written in history, basically. You know what I mean? Like people wouldn't know that there was this Wonder Woman that did this thing because she saved like a lesser known town, whatever the case may be, that ended up being nuked anyway. Spoilers. But
that's true. Everybody died.
But I don't imagine the character that she is like standing by when round 2 came around. And
World War II.
What
round 2.
What
that's not insensitive.
What role? Too soon, really? Get over it.
I just said.
But no,
ooh, man.
Yeah. But I just there's no mention as to what kind of like we're left to kind of I guess assume what she would have been like in that time period, or like how she would have handled herself then. Was she in the war there? Like I don't know. Did she take a particular side?
No.
Was there a similar plot as this movie was? Like, was there a similar villain at the core of it? The type of thing.
Yeah.
But no, I don't know. I that's for me. That's only kind of nitpicky and like because I really thoroughly enjoyed this movie. Like other people have other things about it being like too safe or whatever, but I think it worked because it was safe in that it wasn't trying to do too many like over the top outlandish things with its story. It wasn't trying to get like too complicated as far as the story goes.
I think that's good.
I think it worked very well for it.
Yes.
Like because it was nowhere near as complicated as Batman v Superman was trying to be, and I think that paid out.
Yeah, I agree. And like we don't need anything. I don't think we need anything super overcomplicated.
Mm-hmm.
These are, after all, superheroes.
Yeah.
These aren't like. It doesn't have to be all convoluted. We don't have to have crazy, ridiculous, overcomplicated, dark backstories and things of that nature. I just like a superhero who, knows what's right and fights for that and, does well, dispenses justice, and is cool. And I think that's what we got out of this film, and I really enjoy that. I don't think I have a whole lot of complaints. I mean, I'm pretty easy when it goes to movies. But, no, I think, like I said, I don't think I have many complaints about the film. There's plenty of things that I liked about it. There's certainly some things that I think stood out. Some things that I really liked is that I don't feel like this movie suffers from any of the problems that the now CW series Supergirl has suffered from, which is in being incredibly overhanded or what is that word? Overhanded.
School word.
Strong hat? No.
I don't know.
Maybe I'm combining.
You're trying like,
but it's just been like really in your face to be like, you can't be a superhero because you're a girl. I don't think anyone at any point in this movie says you can't do this because you're a girl outside of the cultural context of at that time women weren't allowed to do
it was for that. Even then it was like nobody actually directly ever told her that she's like, you can't do this because you're a woman. Like it was never stated that way. I love that. They were always just
Praise
like,
God.
what a girl.
Yes, no. Yeah, I think because up till now it's just been like I don't know, with Supergirl, with any of the other things that they've tried to do, I've just been like, why can't we have a really awesome superhero that kicks butt, dispenses justice, has a good sense of right and wrong, and just happens to be female?
Sure.
But no, just with Supergirl, like I felt like every episode they were just like, but you're a girl and you can't do brr because you're a girl. And
that's my complaint with that show is that that she doesn't seem like her villain isn't really like the alien creature. Her villain is like sexism and
like,
men that run into stop her in her path. And I'm just like, this is dumb. But it does. Okay, so
some people don't
you haven't finished the show.
Like that.
It does get better towards the end, and I've heard this new season is even much better.
But I like that that was refreshing to see that she was just being awesome.
Yeah.
And she also happened to be a woman.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Awesome is a good word for it in the sense that like she did instill awe in so many people that like it got to the point where so many people were just like just didn't argue with her or didn't step in her way or try to impede her in any way because they're like, well, this girl's obviously amazing, so I'm just gonna let her take care of this.
Yeah,
which
fine.
was excellent.
Yes, you're like, well, I mean, she won't get hurt by bullets and stuff. I guess we'll just let her go.
Right.
Oh, cool. We can follow her now. Yeah, and I just thought that was great.
Yeah. No, I thought that was awesome. It was really neat. It also, along those same lines, I also really like that this is a movie where like things were resolved in that like they had like a problem, and every time Wonder Woman was faced with a problem, she was just like, okay, I'm going to do this thing. And everybody's like, well, you can't do that. We have this other thing. Like, we have to do it this way. We have to spy. We have to espionage. We have to plan. We have to do. And she's like, well, if I just run in and just hit everybody with my sword, I think that'll solve the problem. And it totally did. And I'm just like, yes.
But totally different some things.
I mean, for some things. But it's just like so much of her, like, I don't know, like, it felt like, I think part of the whole safe thing was that, like, I feel like there was moments in the movie where they could have taken a different path. They could have made it more like a spy movie or like an Ocean's 11 or something goofy like that with what they were trying to do in the movie as far as story wise. But instead they were just like, nah, screw it. Just run in there and do the thing. And I'm like, yes, do that. That's great. I love that. It made it feel like a little bit like a video game, but it also definitely made it feel like a comic.
Yeah, I think that's cool. I mean, it's also that kind of backfired on her when she tried to go into the castle, I feel. Caused a bit of an issue.
Yeah.
And so, but I appreciate that scene because I appreciate a character having a fault, realizing a fault, like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have done this kind of, or maybe this is kind of nuts. Especially when she kills that guy who was a bad guy, yeah, sure, but wasn't Ares.
Yeah.
And I'm perfectly fine with that. I enjoy a character having a flaw and being able to realize that, and I think that's cool. I think she had a good balance.
Yeah, she's definitely balanced. Is another word I heard a lot in reviews. Balance is definitely true. The show, the movie, not just her, but in general, like the movie knew when to be funny and knew when to be serious and it knew when to do all these different things. And I really thoroughly enjoyed that. I think the action scenes were done really, really well. I think the comedy was done exceptionally well. I love all the awkward conversations that came from the fact that Wonder Woman is naive, but not unintelligent.
Correct.
And so people would be like, oh, you don't know what this is, so maybe you don't know what this is. And she's like, no, I know what this is, obviously, because I'm well-read and I'm intelligent.
Right.
But they're like, oh, well, but you don't know how to operate a revolving door.
Yep.
Like, things like that.
Yeah. I have thought of a fault for the movie that I had that I didn't remember until just now. There's a lot of slow-mo, and I feel there's a bit too much slow-mo.
I love that slow-mo.
I don't, though.
And it's like, I understand why they do it, because Zack Snyder loves him some slow-mo.
Yeah, he does.
And he was like an executive producer or something right?
Like
or
that,
something.
Yeah.
He was something in there. Thankfully, he wasn't the director. The director did a great job.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know what you mean. The slow-mo...
I think it's just a bit too much, and like, because when especially when you're in an action beat that's going really fast, like the fight on the beach, there's a hefty amount of slow mo there, and I feel like there are some things because the point of slow mo is to take a fast action sequence, slow it down so you can see all of the cool moves everybody's doing in slow mo, or so you can get a more impactful fall or injury or something like that.
Yeah,
just feel it.
So
but
like
for some of that, I don't feel like that's all.
Like in the trailer
necessary.
with the Amazon that gets shot when she's sitting on the vine. Yeah.
But there's another point where like
that's a good point. That was a good point for slow mo. I think that was a really neat time for it. But yeah, I could see there was some unnecessary parts.
There's way too much of it. I think when you use it too much, it sort of
loses that.
Yeah, loses
that power, that weight, or
loses its impact, loses its meaning. And I think for some of it, I really would have liked... I enjoy sometimes when you have a really cool move or something that someone does, and you don't get to slow it all the way down. Because I feel like that gives you the full effect of how really awesome this was.
Yeah. Because it shows like they did that really quickly.
Right. And there's a cool move where one of the Amazons, I think, like she like flips off of one of her horses and kicks 2 guys in the face and like shoots someone, and it was really cool. But they did it in slow mo, and I was like, I would have loved to have seen that sped up.
Yeah.
And normal speed.
Okay.
Like, that would have been awesome.
That's kind of how I felt.
Mean, that's how I feel. Like
that's how I felt with wasn't there an Amazon that was like throwing 2 daggers and she like knifed 2 people in the face, but like. We saw a similar scene in the Assassin's Creed movie where they just didn't slow that down at all. They just the guy just
cool.
jumped across the roof and stabbed 2 people with the 2 daggers.
Done. Oh.
And it was amazing.
Super freaking cool. Right? Yeah, I think that
I see what
shows
you mean. Yeah.
how cool that can be. But when you slow it down,
yeah.
it makes me think, okay, well, this was slowed down on purpose. This was all acted on purpose. It takes me out of that moment.
Yeah.
I feel. Which is the opposite of what slow-mo is supposed to do.
Yeah.
It's supposed to put you more in the moment. And I think when you use it too much, as was the case, I think, in this film, it takes you out of the moment.
Yeah, I can see that.
Definitely. Because like, imagine watching like Ip Man or anything like that, where he's going real fast and just throwing punches. Mm-hmm. What if they just slowed all that down? It would take the impact away. The fact that he could do things so quickly and cool was what they were trying to capture.
Of it, yeah.
And I feel like we lose that oftentimes.
Yeah.
In a lot of action movies today. And,
I get that.
Yeah. So that's one gripe I have about the film. It's a smidge much of that.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, I thought it was pretty fun. I like the crew. I like Chris Pine playing Steve Trevor. Chris Trevor. He was great. No, he was super good.
He was really good. Yeah.
I enjoy him basically playing the same person in every movie he's in.
Chris Pine.
Although he probably haven't seen the movie Their Finest Hour. Something to that effect. I think that's what it's called. It's really cool. It's a true story about some Coast Guard guys that rescued a whole bunch of guys off of a big tanker.
Oh, wow.
Was stuck in the middle of a horrible storm off the coast of some New England coast.
Huh.
Really cool. He plays like a skipper, like a little captain, one of the Coast Guard who decides to go out and try and save these people.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a really cool role for him because that character, while he is a captain and is a military man, and I guess you could say very similar to things that he has played. He's not that person's not very outgoing or ambitious, and he's kind of awkward. And it's really cool to see
Chris Pine
play that.
That's
it's
nuts.
Really
okay,
fun.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, I recommend that. It's good. Good
but
film.
yeah, no, I think Chris Pine did a great job in this one. I think part of it had to do with his chemistry with Gal Gadot was spot on.
Good. Yeah,
they did a really good job playing off one another, especially since that he was playing this character who's like always arrogant and like Chris Pine has this he's just like witty banter, quick style and stuff like that, and like Wonder Woman, she was like just keeping up with that. She was not like she wasn't taking his BS like in most movies. She's quick. And I'm just like that was super cool.
Good. That
was very well written. I liked it a lot, and it wasn't necessarily in the same vein as some of the Marvel movies where there's just a lot of one-liners, like in the Avengers movies where everything's a one-liner and stuff like that, those kinds of things. It was still they had some moments like that, I think, but a lot of the dialogue felt real in the sense that this guy was this guy who's definitely talking to a woman the way he's tried to woo women in the past, and he's realizing he's out of his depth basically, and then she's trying to talk to him about things that are going on in her life. And he's explaining this world, and she's realizing she's out of her depth, and so they really balance each other out a lot, and it's really, really neat. What about the supporting cast? What do you think about?
I enjoyed them a lot. I don't know anybody's name.
Nobody's name. Lupin
was great
from Harry Potter. I forget that actor's name. He's a brilliant actor.
Yeah.
He did a really good job in this. As the he was I don't remember what his role was in the Armistice. He was trying to get the Armistice. He was trying to get the ceasefire signed, basically. But I don't remember what his role was in the government.
No, he's some kind of diplomat.
Yeah, some sort of diplomatic figure. But he was cool. I liked his role very lot. I liked Chris Pine's secretary. She was great. Yeah. Okay, so I was worried that all her best lines and importance was going to be used up in the trailer, because she just seemed like that kind of character. But in the movie, she's played
good
it very
reason
well.
For that fear,
right? In the movie, she's played it very well, and she's got a lot more screen time than you'd think, and it's very neat. I like her a lot, and What do you think of Wonder Woman's knockoff Howling Commandos?
I like them a lot. They're great. No, I really enjoyed the whatever the other guy that was he French? What was his nationality? The guy that spoke a lot of languages.
Yeah, I don't know.
I feel like he was French.
I felt like he was like Indian or something, but he was, I don't know, maybe he was French. He could have been. I have no idea.
Don't know.
Parisian maybe? I don't know. But
it was something. It was cool.
It was cool. He was
cool.
He was
the
a great
Scottish
character.
guy was fun. The random Native American person was fine.
Chief.
Yeah,
I kept calling him Chief. I don't know what his real name was.
that was cool.
He was good. I liked him a lot.
Interesting.
I didn't quite get his. I didn't understand the Chief's backstory or like his explanation about living in a war zone, basically talking about how like this was the only place he could be free because his land was taken from him and stuff like that. Because I was like, on one hand, I'm like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Like you've got nothing to lose or whatever because your family's gone or whatever, or you don't have like a place of your own. But like it's still a war zone. I'm just like, you don't have like a lot of agency in a war zone. You're kind of like stuck to avoiding the war zone. I don't, you know what I mean? Like I don't, but he was
he was make that money though.
But he was a really cool character. I liked him a lot. I thought he was really neat. But
super fun.
I make the joke about the Howling Commandos. I really think that this movie is like DC's Captain America in a lot of ways. Not just because of the actual comparisons to Captain America. What with like they're in a war. It's a world war, but not a World War II. It's this group led by this spangly dressed hero, and they have this group that's basically like the Howling Commandos and all these different things. But it's also like from a film perspective, I think this might be I'm hoping this is the turning point. I'm not. This is just me being. This is wishful thinking. This is cautiously optimistic thinking that this may be the turning point for DC's quality of movies, hopefully. In that, when Captain America... I've talked to you before about how when Captain America came out, a lot of people I knew were talking about how this is the first good superhero movie. And while I disagreed, it was definitely a quality superhero movie that... Yeah. I think to a quality we hadn't seen before.
I think en masse, yeah, as far as the general public was concerned, Captain America may have been the first great superhero movie, or at least the first great one from the Marvel team.
Yeah, definitely.
I personally feel like Spider-Man was really kind of a turning point.
Yeah.
The first and second Spider-Man with Maguire in them.
Maguire, yeah.
I feel like that was a time when people could go to a movie to see a superhero movie, and it would be like you could bring the whole family and it would be great. It'd be cool. Whereas I guess that's...
But yeah.
I don't know.
And then the
topic for another day.
But I'm really hoping that this is like, especially also the comparison that this movie is the last DC movie before the Justice League movie comes out.
Yeah.
Just how Captain America was right before Avengers. And so I'm hoping that just like Avengers, but not just like I say
exactly like it. We want it to be just the Avengers.
Like Avengers financially, not like Avengers actually.
Critically and financially,
yes. I want it to knock it out of the park. I don't necessarily want it to be exactly Avengers again, but with DC characters. I want it to be still good, but not, Yeah. I don't know. Well, yeah, but you know what I'm saying. But I think that's really cool with it, and I'm hoping that this is a good sign, a good omen. I think part of that is also pulling Zack Snyder back a little bit, because he didn't direct this one, but he still had a hand in this role, and I feel like that can be seen.
Well, he's probably gonna be out for a bit, so
yeah, we'll see.
He's pulled away from Justice League because of tragedy in his family, I believe.
Oh no, I don't really wish any harm.
No, that's like, be careful with that.
As much as I'm just like, as much as I'm like, oh man, you make bad movies. I'm like,
from what I've heard and what I've understand, he's gonna step back from that for a while just to be with his family. Which is, I hope everything's fine with him.
Yeah, that's fine.
But I think they were gonna stop. I think I heard they were gonna stop and let him do his thing and then come back to the movie and like push the date back, but he was like, nah. So Joss is just gonna continue it.
Who? Joss
Whedon.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was already, I think, kind of working with
I knew
them
he was
a little
working
bit.
with DC, but I didn't
Well, he's
know
doing
what
Batgirl,
exactly
but
his
I think he was already
role
kind of
was.
doing some stuff, some rewrites or a little bit of things
Oh.
on the Justice League. So now he's more hands-on on that. But at this point, I think the movie's basically done anyway, so I don't think there's going to be a whole
So you're
lot.
saying Joss Whedon's also going to save DC like it saved Marvel?
I don't... Did he save Marvel?
I don't know if he saved Marvel.
I
But
don't know if he saved Marvel.
Avengers was like, that moment where it solidified itself as
I guess. I mean, again, I said this before. And I'll
this
say
big
it again.
powerhouse as it was before.
I really liked Iron Man. I thought it was fun.
No, Iron Man was great, but
and
Marvel at the time, that was like one of their first movies, right? Like as a studio, as Marvel Studios.
Iron Man was.
Yeah. So, yeah. And so I think Avengers was the moment where everybody was just like, oh, okay, this is a thing. We can do this now. This is a...
Yeah.
And like, I definitely think Iron Man was great. And I think it was an excellent build-up to Avengers. But I think Avengers was the moment that they were all like, yeah, we've come together. We figured we've learned our stride. And I think Joss Whedon had a lot to do with that. So yeah, yeah, we'll see. I didn't know. I knew he was working with DC. I did not know what his role was yet.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
We shall see. We'll see. I don't. Like I said, I'm pretty sure most of Justice League is probably done already, and so I don't think he'll have a whole lot to do. But I'm sure whatever he does will be fine. Did you totally call the switch, David?
I did
asked,
not,
knowing that you didn't.
I totally did not. I did it, and it's really funny because I talked to a few other people, and they're like, "Oh man, I totally saw it coming," and I was just like, "What?"
Hey, I'm one of those people, you butt. Look, I saw it just because like I felt like it was a little bit much.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like they were trying to push it being this general, or push the fact that the general was Ares a little too much in both that like he was sniffing that crazy power gas or whatever she gave him.
See, that was the red
And
herring
then-
for me. That was what would turn me because I was like,
Well, no, see, that's when I started to suspect too. It's like when he did that, and because I imagine he would do that. His face lit up, and I imagine if he was Ares, he would probably like change form a little bit, like not be able to control himself for a second, maybe. And you'd see some kind of skittish thing, but you didn't, and I was like, yeah, he's probably not Ares. And then when Lupin, well, some people say that when he just opts to pay for the trip is when you can sort of tell, and I guess that would be it, but that's not when I saw it. When he did that, I was just like, oh, like I mean, I guess they've got to get these guys into action somehow, so they're just using this as some kind of plot device. Like, oh, we know this rich guy, he'll get us there. It was for me. It was when. So I just wrote that off. But for me, it was when he was telling them not to go to the gala. And I was like, you got problems. You're way more involved in this than you should be.
maybe.
And so that's when I suspected it was. And again, like you don't get that actor in there and not have him do something.
That's probably
awesome.
a good hint, but I didn't pick up on that bit.
It was cool.
But no, it was well done. I thought it was really good. I had suspected by the time before Wonder Woman had done the killing blow to what's his bucket. I knew he wasn't going to be Ares.
Yeah.
I knew he wasn't going to be Ares, but I just didn't know who would have been Ares. I didn't suspect Lupin because I always fall for the character that helps the cast. I always do this. I hate it so much, but that's why it makes those villains so like dang satisfying when they're taken down. Like that's how I was with the Fuhrer in Fullmetal Alchemist. It's like I know the Fuhrer was going to be a bad guy, but he was so dang charismatic. I wanted him to be a good guy. You know what I mean? Like when people do so much good for these characters, I'm just like, please don't be the bad guy of this story. I really don't want you to be the bad guy of this story.
That's how I felt the first time I watched Titan AE.
Oh yeah. With Buck. Dang it, I can't remember his name. It's been a long time since
that's fine.
Movie.
But the spoiler alert, I guess, if you haven't seen that movie.
Spoiler for AE. That's an old movie.
The captain of the tiny ship is the one who turns on them and kind of sells them out to.
That's right. Yeah.
Like, oh no! Why you're so cool?
No, why? But yeah, but not in a fun way like in Treasure Planet. But no, yeah. So I didn't see that one coming. I didn't totally get that. I do remember now a gripe I did have with the series, with the movie, that I didn't think about until later on. It was something I thought about at the beginning of the movie, and then I just kind of dropped it because the movie went on, was that in the story originally told to Wonder Woman by Ares. She said that Ares killed off all the other gods except Zeus. And then when Ares was telling the story, he didn't talk about that. He didn't talk about killing the other gods and stuff like that. And I'm hoping that because he didn't talk about it because he didn't do that, because the other gods in the pantheon like have a lot to do with Wonder Woman's backstory, and it would make like no sense to me if like the only gods left on Olympus is Zeus, especially now that Ares is gone. So I'm just like, well, there's just Zeus.
I thought Zeus was also dead.
Yeah, because no, wait, why?
Because I'm almost certain that they used the term like when girl, you know, the woman in the movie,
Hippolyta.
Yeah, no. I don't. Is that her mom?
That's her mom. Yeah, Hippolyta is the mom.
When she was talking
one of the few names
about,
I remember.
I think when she was talking about homegirl's birth, Wonder Woman. Diana.
Yeah.
I'm almost certain she used the term Zeus gave his dying breath to bring Diana to life. Like, I was fairly certain Zeus had been pretty wounded by his fight with Ares, and as his last wish, created Diana to kill him, to be able to kill him, and died.
So, if we're to believe Hippolyta's story, does that mean that now that Wonder Woman has defeated Ares, that all of the Greek gods are dead?
I'm fine with that.
I am not. Athena is a big part of Wonder Woman's story.
We've just talked about how we don't want a whole lot of convoluted nonsense. And I think if we left all of those gods in there, someone, maybe Schneider, would do something ridiculous and we'd have this nonsense. We don't need it. We've had our Wonder Woman origin story and it was great. And I think from here on out, we don't need to hear any nonsense about who she is or how she came to be. We just need to have her and the Justice League beat the crap out of some aliens.
I mean, I get that. And it's not really, for me, it's not even about like who she is or what she needs to be. It's more like the future of the character. Like, Wonder Woman fights Greek villains and heroes or villains that are steeped in Greek mythology in some form or fashion. Generally, like not always, but like people that are cursed by stuff like that, or you know, people that are chosen by certain gods or whatever the case may be. And she's trained by Athena at one point, and like that's a big part of her character and all these different things. And so I'm just like, if we just pull out her entire heritage, besides the fact that she's the daughter of Zeus, like I see your point. Like I see that, like, oh yeah, there's no gods, that makes it easier. I was like, yeah, it certainly makes it easier. But then like, what happens at the end of Justice League and they want to do another Wonder Woman movie? She's just gonna fight in another world war? Like, is she gonna fight? She can't fight Cheetah. Cheetah is a god killer. She doesn't have any gods to kill. Like, what?
Give her something else to kill. I don't know.
I don't know. Like, there's a lot of characters that are involved in Wonder Woman's story character. Like, it's like for me, it's like taking the gods out of Wonder Woman's story. Almost like it almost feels like if you went into Batman's story and it was like every villain he ever arrested got cured at Arkham Asylum. They're like,
cool.
They're
I'm
not,
fine with that.
And I'm just like,
Let's do something else.
Well, then what's he fight? Like, you know what I mean? Like
some other crazy madman that comes to Gotham to do crime.
Yeah, okay.
Like they all do.
I'm sure they'll work something out. But I just thought that was something I thought was really interesting and convoluted. But it is rather neat that it's kinda not. It's cut and dry because it's like she's told one thing and then Ares is like, no, this is the truth. So I don't know. Well, I guess it's more up to what the writers in the future decide is true, or up to our own imaginations. I don't know. I like to think that the gods are still alive. They're just not taking a step into it, and that way they can later on become a thing later, hopefully. Sure. But we'll see.
Maybe so, David.
We'll see.
I don't know.
Still a good movie.
Lord knows they can pull
movie.
Any other random thing out of their butts and have them fight something. I mean,
yeah, I get that.
Freaking Suicide Squad fought an Aztec witch goddess.
Yeah, but Enchantress is a character in the DC universe, and the Enchantress isn't directly tied. She's indirectly tied to any of the characters' backstories.
That's
or
fine. That's what I'm saying.
Or
pull
heritage.
Something else that's not tied to them and have them fight that. That's more of what I'm saying.
So we'll have Wonder Woman fight Darkseid.
That's fine. I'll watch that.
I mean, I'd watch that too, but like, she'd be fighting Justice League villains.
That's fine.
Just fight Superman villains.
I understand your point.
But
I see that.
I know what you're saying.
That's fine. But yeah, again,
but no,
I just pray that they don't.
In this movie,
I pray that they
great.
stop convoluting things.
Yeah.
And stop doing.
I'm okay with that.
I think it's fine whenever directors or filmmakers are given very little and asked to make something great out of that. Sure. As opposed to when they're given all of the things. Yeah. And they try to cram it all into a movie. Yeah. Like Batman v Superman. I have a feeling. I have a belief that like limitations kind of like is where like art really tends to grow and thrive. Yeah. Because it's like if you get too much freedom, it's tough to pick a path and stick to it. But yeah, no, it's really good. This movie worked out fine. I think it did a great job on its own. Really well. I'm really excited about the future of this universe, extended universe, DCE. I think it'll be good. Yeah. Good. Would you suggest this movie to your friends? All of the friends. All of the friends. Only my friends. Though. What about people who aren't comic book fans? Do you think they'd enjoy this? Probably. What if you have just fans of women? Just fans of women. Wonderful women. You should see this wonderful woman movie. I think it's good. I think I'm the same way. Question for you. For sure. Because I have an answer to this question, so I'm going to ask you first, so we can have more of a discussion about it. All right. How do you feel about the lack of an after credits scene? How do I feel about the lack of a credits? I feel it was refreshing. I feel like it was fine. I feel like it made me appreciate what we saw, because and part of it helped me realize that we didn't really need one, because we know what's going to happen next. With some of the post-credit scenes in Marvel and some of the post-credit scenes we've seen before in DC have been like, oh, you got to look out for this new thing that's coming up. But it's like we've been talking about Justice League since last year, and we know that's the next movie. And we know we keep getting concept footage and concept art and cast interviews and all these different things. We just keep getting hype for this movie to the point where I'm just like, we know Justice League's next. I don't need another scene to show me that Justice League's next. So I'm okay with it. I was fine. And even in the Marvel universe at this point, a lot of after credit scenes have just become comical. Yeah, they've been more for jokes. We know where we're going. We've announced the next movies for the next 5 years. Yeah, exactly. But I don't know. It was cool. I like it for two reasons. Okay. I think it was a good choice for two reasons. One reason is positive, one reason not so positive. But good choice reason number one is that it doesn't need to be like Marvel. Mm-hmm. And I feel like if you're gonna compete with Marvel, which let's be honest, that's what you're doing. Even if you don't want to, that's what you're going to be doing. You're making superhero movies. You're going to have to make superhero. Yeah, you're going to have to compete with Marvel at some point. Yeah, and so being different than them and not having the same expectations, I think, is good. Yes. Reason number two, not so good, but still a good choice, is that, as we mentioned, a lot of after credit scenes, the ones that aren't comical, are generally promissory. They're like, hey, this next thing is coming in. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I don't think DC should promise anything right now. I don't think they can. Okay. And they shouldn't. Yep. I'm okay with that. Let's not promise anything that we might not live up to. Yeah. I get that. Let's not build too much expectation. I'm not saying that's what they were doing, but I'm saying that's still works out. That's still good. Yeah, that's still good. Don't promise something. Didn't. Yeah, I get that. That's just good. I don't remember if this was the after credits scene or anything, but the Green Lantern movie that everybody hated. The one that exists. Yeah, the one that exists with Ryan Reynolds. Yeah. How be his name? No, just kidding. I'm just kidding. I don't know if it was just the last scene of the movie or if it actually was the after credits scene, but it's the scene when I'm pretty sure you see Sinestro forging his yellow ring. Oh yes, you do. That is a thing. Yes. I was I'm over here trying to brainstorm the end of the movie. I was like, and a lot of people claim that they showed Parallax and they teased Sinestro when they should have done it the opposite way. They should have showed Sinestro and teased Parallax. Either way, whatever it is they did, it didn't come to fruition. So they've got this interesting scene that just never happened. Didn't do anything with it. Nope. Yeah. I could see that. It's just lost potential at this point. Yep. Yeah, so I can see that. Good on you, DC. Don't promise anything you might not be able to follow through with. Sure. I like that. Yeah.
I think that's really good. Yeah, that's an interesting thought. I didn't think about that before. Yeah, because
I thought about it. I just didn't tell you because we
DC's
have a podcast now.
because we have a podcast.
So I tell you here.
Yes, that's. I've been doing that too. I've been having to like save up stuff to talk to you about because we do it all the time. But no, yeah, that's a good decision. I think it was fine. I kind of hope...
And again, that decision could have been made for any number of reasons.
Any number of reasons,
not what
for
I
sure,
said.
for sure. It could have been budget reasons, like, you know, like
Yeah.
they didn't want to buy put together another scene. But no, like, my thing is, I kind of hope DC doesn't do more, doesn't do more, like, post-credit, doesn't do any more post-credit scenes. Like, I hope this is the first of many that they do like that, because I kind of don't like waiting for the ends of credits anymore. You know what I mean? Like,
I know, right?
It was funny and novel at the beginning, and now it's just like...
I'll YouTube it.
Yeah.
Go home.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm just like, I'll see it. I didn't see the after credit scene of the one with Spider-Man, the end of Civil War, with Spider-Man and his projector.
I didn't see it the
thingy.
first time either. Because it's the second one, right? Because they have one like after the first credits and they have one after the last credits.
Yeah, there's a mid-credit scene and then a post-credit scene.
The first time I went, I didn't see that one.
Yeah, and I was just like, I don't care. I want out. Like, I'll just...
I gotta pee.
I'll YouTube it. Yeah, right? I don't need to sit here forever. Even though it's like fun listening to music and watching names scroll by.
Yeah. Well, the Guardians of the Galaxy credits were actually fun.
Yeah, well, but that's the thing. Like,
so if you're gonna make all of your credits fun, I'll do it.
They're fun, but even then, like, unnecessary. You know what I mean? I don't know. It didn't.
Yeah, well, I mean, there were like 4 of them, and only one of them was seriously related to any future thing.
Yeah, and I'm just like, I don't need all that. I don't need all that. Marvel does it fine. I think Marvel can continue doing whatever they want, but I think
super can.
I think
Holy crap.
DC could definitely improve by not doing those things, just because, you know, anything else to make them.
They could definitely improve by improving. And
this is true too.
Giving us some good movies.
Do a quality thing. Do that. Yeah.
Whew, okay. Moving onwards. It was a good film.
Moving onwards.
So we're gonna go with my topic today. First off.
Yeah, you got a thing, right?
I have a thing.
You're gonna talk about.
So I'm gonna talk about a film that I recently watched on the Netflix. It is called Blame.
Is this an anime film?
Yeah.
I think I saw it on Netflix, but never actually physically watched it. I saw it on my feed, and I was like...
It's cool that we both that you use the term anime, because like you saw it and it was like, oh, this looks like anime, because it's a 3D animated.
Oh movie. Yeah, I just said animated. I didn't think it was just anime.
Well, no, I consider it anime.
Okay,
that's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
It's like, to me, it is anime.
Okay.
But it's 3D animated. It's from Japan. It's based off of a manga. So it's off of a manga by the same name that came out like 20 years ago.
Wow. It's
called Blame, published by Kodansha in 1998.
Okay.
From a guy that I'm not super familiar with, Tsutomu Nihei. Ooh, that's a name. He also wrote the manga that Knights of Sidonia is based off of, which is another series on Netflix that is animated in the same fashion, if I recall. I haven't watched it, but this has made me very excited to watch it. But it's cool. It's very fun. It's fun. It's kind of bleak.
Fun for the audience, maybe.
Yeah. I liked it a lot.
Okay.
I watched it in dub. I'd like to watch the sub, but the general plot, or I say plot, not really plot, but the setting of this film and what's going on in this film is that it's just likely hundreds, if thousands of years in the future for mankind. Mankind has created, at some point in our history, found a way to... We've advanced a lot in technology. Technology's become really awesome and stuff, and we use it to keep on building. We've built these enormous cities. Basically, we just don't even touch the actual ground anymore. We're just in these enormous cities of metal, all kinds of computer networks and things of that nature.
So this is like a cyberpunk
connecting us.
Type story?
Sort of. What happens, though, is like...
Super future?
At some point in our future, mankind develops a way to connect and interface with this technology It's
like the
it's
Matrix,
odd. It's odd
or
to
like...
say biologically, but that's more or less what it is.
Okay.
And essentially, we remove the need for a physical interface with a computer. We don't need a keyboard. We don't need a phone. We don't need a mouse. We don't need a terminal.
Okay.
They call it the net terminal gene, which is this gene that you have in your body that allows you to connect to the computers and all of this nonsense, and connect to the system, which
that
allows you
sounds
to...
neat and scary.
Terrifying, right? It allows you to control what's going on. Well, essentially what happens is...
Get to hack people?
That continues to advance, and we get to this point where we no longer have physical interfaces with computers or with machines.
Sure.
And we don't need them anymore, right? Because everybody can do it through their brain, I guess, essentially, through their body, because they have this gene.
Think the thing, and you get the thing.
Right.
Tell yes, Siri. And...
So, but what ends up happening is, they call it, I don't know what they call it, an outbreak, some type of pathogen, some type of illness. Virus, something, breaks out amongst humankind.
A computer virus?
Don't know. Biological. Breaks out amongst humankind, and it eats away this net terminal gene. So people lose the ability to connect with the machinery, the technology.
Oh, wow.
And at this point, they don't have, and haven't even been taught of another way to interact with,
like ridiculous
with the machines.
This is way in the future. Goodness
way in the future, yeah. I was just thinking about like the centuries it would have taken to get to this point.
Yeah, right, exactly. Holy crap. This is like the centuries it would have taken to get the people in, like...
so this has happened. Meanwhile, the Safeguard, which is basically an army of robots that do everything from serve to fight, like they're like security guards, police, they're the army, they're the military, all this nonsense.
Yeah.
And builders, they're the architects and builders of all the machines and things. And they're these crazy looking fighting robots.
Oh, wow.
Because when people start to lose this gene, or whatever it is, the robots, the net, can no longer identify them, a human as a person that controls the net, and so they deem them as an invalid citizen or as an intruder, and so the machines have started killing all of the humans because the humans no longer have this gene.
That's nuts. Okay.
It's crazy. And so
That's ridiculous.
We're super far. We start off and we're super far in the future, and there's these tiny group of humans left that live in an area that the Safeguard can't get to for some reason, which they explain later. But essentially, what's left is they have a little bit of armor and these really futuristic-looking but primitive-working guns.
Okay.
They just fire these metal rods.
Oh, wow. To take down the robots?
More or less,
That's
yes.
neat. Okay.
But essentially, they don't want to find robots. They don't want to be found by the robots because they can only do so much.
Kind of like the Matrix.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sounds like the Matrix.
Ooh, super similar, yeah.
That's cool.
And so, yeah, they're just kind of scraping by, trying to survive. And one way or another, we get an introduction to another main character who is seemingly some type of fusion between human and machine. We don't know a whole lot about him. Spoiler alert, we still won't know a whole lot about him by the end of the movie, because I don't think... So I haven't read the manga, but I don't think the film covers the entirety thereof.
Oh. You think they maybe do
at
a
least
sequel
I
movie?
hope
or
it
do you think
doesn't. I hope we get more
Or do you think
answers.
it's more of like is the manga ongoing? Do you think there's like a...
I don't think it's ongoing.
It's like a read the manga ending, or is it more of like
I would assume not.
Okay.
I mean, it has an ending?
He's doing air quotes, everybody.
I am doing air quotes. It's a quote-unquote
alert,
ending.
alert.
It's just not... The movie comes to an
okay.
end and everybody's okay, more or less.
Okay. There's like a...
But there's not a resolution to that main issue that I brought up.
I see. I see. There's some form of closure, but no, like, not... So
essentially...
complete
this main character that comes in, who's half human, half machine, whatever. He's looking for anyone who has the net terminal gene. That seems to be his MO, his programming, whatever it is. He's searching far and wide for anyone who has this thing.
For the gene?
Yes, for any human that still might have that.
Oh, wow.
Attempting to replicate it, I guess, maybe.
Yeah.
Another character comes in who's this scientist that tried to help solve this problem, like
Well, the gene was
centuries
created
ago.
by men, right? Or like
That's
humans
what we
created it.
That's what I
So
assumed.
they're trying to find some way to recreate it, maybe, or
What this group, what she was doing, what her scientist group was doing, was trying to find a way not to recreate the gene, but to create a way for us to enter the net without the gene.
Oh, okay.
A different type of interface to help do that. And
Yeah.
they were
Like
really
the Matrix.
close. They were really
I'm just
close
messing.
to doing that the
That's
first
enough
time. But they got caught by the safeguard, and
Oh, geez.
just about everybody died.
Wow.
So I'm assuming, I don't know a whole lot, but I'm assuming she downloaded whatever was left of her mind onto this little tiny bit of her that's left that you see eventually.
Huh. Creepy.
And then, yeah, it's creepy, but it's cool. It's got a lot of fun action.
Yeah.
It's got interesting twists. It's cool. It was really neat, and the 3D was interesting. It's like I'm not super sold on that 3D style just yet.
3D animation in general is very hit or miss.
There are some people that like
it doesn't age well for sure.
Yeah, I think the fact that this is 3D animation that's just 3D, because an anime a lot nowadays, and for the past decade, they've been doing what they can to integrate 3D animation with 2D animation, and the older that gets, the more obvious that is.
Yeah,
and it's just not very great back in the day. Given that this movie is entirely in 3D, I find that that's a little bit better.
Okay.
But it is interesting because it's a 3D that's done in anime style. Anime is very stylistic, very simplistic.
Sure.
And so this 3D, could have been a whole lot more in depth. Like we could have had a Advent Children type movie where it's this is really well rendered, Final Fantasy-esque thing. But it doesn't. It didn't. It's just a lot more simple, and I like that. I think that might age better. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
how cell shading animation tends to age the word.
It's interesting to me that it's still stylistically anime, even though it is 3D, and I thought that was neat.
That's cool.
I thought that was interesting. But I definitely recommend the movie. It's cool. It's a lot of fun.
Is it like a horror, or is it just horrific stuff?
It's suspenseful.
Suspenseful? Okay.
It's not horror.
Okay,
I would not classify it as horror.
I don't want to be too spoopy.
Nope. Ain't spoopy.
That's cool. So it's like cyberpunk, dystopian future type thing.
It's
That's
just
cool.
like machines are gonna kill everybody. It's like, it's just like.
Is there like
a Terminator future kind of?
Is there like a one? Is there like a chosen one, like a Neo? Is there like Does the story follow a particular character, or is it like a group of characters?
So it follows. There's a group, but it follows a girl. Who's more or less a main character.
Cool. Cool.
And
good.
then this guy, who's he doesn't say a whole lot. He's not super.
Made a few words.
Indeed. And there's plenty. I think it's a very good mix of things that are explained and things that are not.
Okay.
Because there's some things that he does, and you're like, what is that? How does that work? And they don't explain it all, really, or hardly any of it.
Yeah.
But there are things that you can pick up from watching it.
There's context clues and stuff like that.
And I'm like, that's fine. Thank you for trusting me as an audience member to just gather things. And I think it's also cool because
that's really good.
These are humans that have essentially forgotten their past.
Yeah,
because they're living
at this point. Yeah, they had to have, right?
They're living in an enormous city that humans did in fact build, but they have no clue what it is, how it was built, how old it might be, what they're doing. But yeah, they're in this city that they don't know about, and I think that's interesting because the characters in this show don't know a whole lot about what's around them, and we as an audience also aren't given a whole lot.
Yeah.
Like, we really aren't. We're given about as much knowledge as the people there have, which is minimal.
Is that confusing as the movie progresses, or is it like it was one of those things where it's like the movie's kind of confusing and then towards the end everything's resolved, like answered?
No, I don't think so. I don't think it's
there's enough context that you can
I don't find it confusing. There's plenty of context. The
nice.
scientist lady actually explains a good bit because she's like centuries old.
Okay.
She's just been hanging out. She like downloads all of her information onto this robot frame, essentially. I guess, or it might have been her frame. I don't know. There's not a whole lot of explanation because it seems also that at some point humans and machines kind of also got intermixed, and it was probably very common to have a lot of.
I don't know why.
Probably very common to have a lot of mechanical parts.
Okay.
Or whatever. Like, I guess you could say iRobot or something like that.
Oh, okay. All right. Like with the robot prosthetics and goofy things like that.
So I don't
know. Or Deus Ex with the, I didn't ask for this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. Okay.
So, yeah, but I it was just cool. It was refreshing.
Yeah.
It was fun. It's new. It's different. Makes me want to read the manga.
Okay.
So.
What about things like the score? What do you think? Music and stuff like that. Was that?
I think the music was
a lot
good.
in there? Okay.
I think the music was cool.
Yeah.
Again, the one thing it does that I dislike, but that's not a problem with the original animation or anime itself, is the dub. I feel like sometimes
dub was meh.
Sometimes I have to, like, as an anime fan, watching a dub, I have to read in more to a situation that should have been better explained by the people saying words. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, they
I
say
guess.
something and I'm like, okay, that probably was more in the sub, or in the actual translation it was probably more like this, but they had to match the words better.
Match the word better.
The
so,
words
yeah.
better. And that's even harder
some things that are lost in the translation, not just the translation of the words, but the translation of the transition between Japanese mouth flapping to English mouth flapping.
Which again isn't the worst thing in the world, because as an audience member, I appreciate having to work a little bit to understand what's going on. That's fine.
Sure.
But it is annoying.
It's nice to have...
and I feel like it's harder in this particular example because in anime, traditional anime that's 2D, matching word flaps isn't as difficult or isn't as noticeable as when you were matching it to a 3D figure whose mouth is going to move much more similarly to how we move our mouths.
Okay.
In anime, it's much more, their mouths, everything that's drawn is drawn much more abstractly.
That's true. That's true.
It's more basic.
That's the kind of the problem I had with Hellsing Ultimate's dub is that the dub, I felt like the dub was bad, but not because the actors, but because in Hellsing Ultimate they put so much attention to detail to how the mouths actually move in that anime, to the point where it's just like you can't make that mouth movement look like an English word. It just doesn't work.
It limits you a lot, and so I feel like what was probably the case was that, we could say this thing that makes sense based off the translation, or we could say this thing that matches the mouth better. And I think sometimes they just went with the thing that matches the mouth better.
Yeah.
Just because that aesthetically looks better.
Yeah.
And I understand that. That's fine. It just makes you have to work a little bit harder as an audience member.
Yeah,
and
I get that.
Because that's an unplanned thing for me to work harder on. Like, I feel like a story and, plot, like what's going on in this world that I had to sort of surmise and understand for myself from watching them interact in this world, that's planned. It's planned for the audience to figure that out on their own.
Sure.
Whereas what these people are saying, what these actors are saying, in order to match the word flaps or the mouth flaps, is less planned. We didn't plan for you to have to figure this out on your own. You're just going to have to, because we have to say this thing instead of what we want.
I get that.
Also, I just remembered the word I was trying to come up with earlier for Supergirl was heavy-handed.
Heavy-handed. Yes, that's a better word.
That's the word. Not overhanded. I don't know why that came up. Heavy-handed. So just go back, listen to that part, and replace that word.
We'll edit it in post.
We will super not.
We'll super not. That's really good.
But anyway, I thought this movie was good. I gave it a nice thumbs up on Netflix, because that's what you do now. And
you do thumbs up now? Do stars or anything like that?
I think you can still rate things, but they've moved on from rating to doing thumbs up and thumbs down for their own purposes.
Neat. Cool. That's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think.
You think? That's cool.
Good movie. So, go watch it.
Go watch it. Okay, cool. Yeah, so now I guess we're going to talk about my thing.
No, I thought we were just going to end.
Oh, okay. Well, good night, everybody.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Yes,
Thanks
we can talk about your thing, David.
Yeah. All right. So, I just finished an anime recently as well, but mine's a whole show and not just a movie.
Oh, yeah, that thing you've been talking about.
Yeah, I've been talking about it to everybody. I've been
annoyingly.
Everybody to watch this show, and now, dear listeners,
so in order to
I get to tell you
to get the full effect, listeners, when you're finished listening to this, just listen to it again every day, at least once.
So the anime in particular I'm talking about is an anime very few people have seen called Showa Genroku Rakugo Shinjuu. And oh man, this show is so freaking cool. It's
cool might be a strong word.
It's very well written. It's a very very well written and directed animated television show. It's follows these characters that are what's known as Rakugo performers. Rakugo being an ancient form of storytelling in Japan. It's something that's passed down from generation to generation. Not like, father to son or whatever, but like, like masters take on apprentice and teach their apprentices how to tell these stories, basically. And it's a cross. I heard it described by somebody as being like a cross between stand-up comedy and a one-man play. And that's kind of where it is. And that, but there's some specifics to this particular art form in that one of them is it's done completely from a kneeling position on a pillow. You're always kneeling on the stage. You have like a fan and a cloth and maybe a few other props, whatever, to act out characters and scenes and stuff for these stories. And that's about it. You're also dressed like, very traditionally, like everybody that does perform Rakugo is dressing in like formal kimono and hakama type wear. They have jackets and things like that. They come on stage. They also all have stage names that are passed down to them by previous teachers or given to them by a teacher, or eventually most Rakugo performers, as they come into their own, choose their own name or choose to take on a name of a previous storyteller. Not quite like One Punch Man. But yeah, things like that. And it's very neat. And the story of the first season, because I'm not going to go into spoilers with this, and I say that because I really badly want everybody that hears this to go see this show. So
guess what, David? I won't.
I'm not going to spoil the show. Guess what? I don't care. But no, you're going to watch the show. No. The first season follows. So there's this character. Yotaro, who is this man who he served a prison sentence, and while he was in prison, he saw this master Rakugo performer Yakumo perform a special Rakugo story called Shinigami, about a man who's talking with a Shinigami, and there's some sort of
Shinigami being a death god, for those who do not know what that means.
Yeah, for people who aren't weebs.
Shinigami is just a term.
Shinigami just means death god.
Japanese death god.
It's like the Grim Reaper in Japan. Yeah.
Very similar, yeah.
So this guy's talking to
Botan.
Yeah, whatever.
Rukia.
Yeah.
Who else? What's the homeboy's name from Death Note?
Ryuk?
Yes.
Yeah. So there's a lot of Shinigami representation in Japan. Anyway, so that's neither here nor there. The guy tells a story about the Shinigami, and it's really well done, and it really inspires this man who's in prison to want to take up this art style. And so when he gets out of prison, he goes to see Yakumo, and he's like, I need you to take me as your apprentice. I want to learn Rakugo. I want to perform Rakugo. And Yakumo has never taken an apprentice in his entire life. And this man's an older man. He's been around for a while. And something about the way this man pleads his case, has Yakumo says yes. Yakumo says, yeah, I will teach you. You will become my apprentice. And he gives him the stage name Yotaro. Yotaro meaning fool. In Rakugo.
Got him!
And so that's his stage name for a long time. He goes by the stage name for a long, long time. And
excuse me, sir, I'd like to become your apprentice. Like, that sounds great, idiot.
Idiot.
From now on, you will be known as Idiot.
Idiot. Yeah, but no. And for a while, he's like just kind of his he's more like his hired hand for a while. He's just kind of like his servant. He helps him out with his performances. He gets him ready and dressed and prepared for things. He drives him around, whatever the case may be. But he does learn Rakugo from Yakumo. He does start to learn it, and he really enjoys it, and he's really enthralled by it. And there's a few other characters in the series, like Yakumo has this adopted daughter, Konatsu, who also is a big fan of Rakugo. And she doesn't really like Yotaro at first, but she kind of comes around later. But she's really cool character in it, and she's really stubborn, and all these different things. But anyway, Yotaro has a performance, and after his first performance, he talks to Yakumo, and Yakumo tells him his story about how he became a Rakugo performer, his entire life story, basically. And the first season basically encompasses this entire flashback that is Yakumo's life, starting out as a Rakugo performer, starting with the stage name Kikuhiko, and
meaning
I don't know. They didn't have
Did you even watch the show?
They didn't have a
David?
subtitle for that one. They just said that's his name.
My God.
And his friend, who also learned Rakugo with him, who took the stage name Sukidoku, who he took that
meaning?
name. Didn't
Oh my God!
It didn't have a meaning.
You have no answers.
He took Sukiroku's name from a previous Rakugo performer. He considers himself. Oh, and that's another thing. In the show,
he stole it.
No.
I got you.
Yeah, he took it in memoriam to another person. Anyway, and so when people do that, when people take the name of a previous Rakugo performer, they're considered the next generation of that name. Basically, they're proceeding with that name. And Yakumo, in the future, is the 8th generation Yakumo. He is the 8th person to take on the name Yakumo. Of this particular line of Rakugo performers. And so this is a long line, and Rakugo has been going on for a long, long time. And in his backstory in season 1, he tells a story about how he studied under the 7th generation Yakumo and things like that. And it's a very interesting story. It takes place during World War II and on, basically, in older Japan, and it talks about how he progresses with his life. And it's very neat. And the second season focuses more on Yotaro and his journey, although it skips over the part where he learns Rakugo. It has like a 10-year time just skip in season 2 to show, they skip past all the, fumble around until I figured out how to do Rakugo, and he learns it, and then it's more about his journey into becoming a professional and taking up the mantle and learning his own voice.
They skip his origin story.
Well, I mean, you get his origin story. You just don't have to
get a little bit. You don't have to sit through a season of it.
Yeah, you don't have to sit through a season of him learning and fumbling around because you watch Kikuhiko do that.
Iron Fist.
Freaking Iron Fist, Luke Cage.
Freaking about it.
Yes. So, yeah.
Hear that? You don't have to sit through a whole season to figure out what someone's motives are.
Yeah. So yeah, it's very neat, and they had a. Oh my gosh, I lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, second season. Yeah, it talks about Yotaro and his progression, but it's also more about. It also still kind of focuses on Yakumo and his, basically his final years. He's getting on in age, and he's getting older and older as the series progresses, and it's kind of like he's kind of having these thoughts of like where am I going to go when this is all over, and also where is the Rakugo art form going to go when I go, because his entire life has been invested in this art form that is basically slowly kind of dying out because of the inventions of radio and television and things like that. Right. There's just so many other things people get involved in that people don't watch Rakugo performances as much. They're done on stage, although later on in the future they are done on television, they are done on radio and things like that, but it's just not as prevalently. It's just not one of those big things. But so yeah, that's a big thing. I learned about this show through a few different anime reviewers, more specifically Mother's Basement. If you want some really, really good explanations of some of the things, and even a breakdown of one of the first scenes in the first episodes, you should check out his channel. He's really, really great. I want to talk about a little bit about why I like this show and why the show is important. First of all, there isn't fan service.
Woo!
Not in the strictest sense. Not in the sense that... So, fan service, for those of you who don't know...
Oh, yeah, that's
in
a word
anime,
to describe, yes.
In anime, fan service is basically... So, in normal media, fan service is explosions and big, amazing things.
It's doing things for the
fans.
It's pandering to what you expect the fans would want.
Yeah.
I.e., Expendables.
Yeah.
Essentially, that series is
action
a fan
movies, Michael
service.
Bay, that kind of bombastic stuff. In anime, fan service is mostly focused on anything almost entirely sexual
objectifying
stuff.
The female form.
Yes. Not wearing a lot of clothing or whatever the case may be, whatever. There isn't any of that in this series. There is a character who is... I mean, there is kind of that, but it's more done verbally. And it's not done visually. You don't see girls, things like that, except for maybe there's a character in the show that Sukiroku and Kikuhiko back in season 1 kind of like have this rivalry over is this geisha named Kiyomichi. I can't remember her name. It's hard to pronounce. Meaning you jerk. Meaning geisha. I don't know. But no, she. But in those situations, even then, it's not done to pander to an audience. If like when they, there's like a little bit of nudity with her, but there's nothing like it's not meant to be showy or things like that. It's meant to show like kind of it's taken very maturely in that like sex is still an important aspect of the relationship and things like that. And so that's one of those things that's touched on. But yeah, no, it doesn't do that pandering to the audience. It's not none of that stuff. It focuses more on the story. I also really like the cast. There's a lot of characters in here, and all of them get screen time, and there's a lot of stuff you learn about all of them, and they're connected in so many different ways. You learn about Yotaro and his just learning Rakugo. You learn about Konatsu and her becoming, less stubborn. You figure out why she's stubborn. You find out about Sukiroku and, why he's not around in the future. You find about this geisha as well. You find out about Yakumo has a servant named Matsuda. And Matsuda, he's been around since the 7th generation Yakumo. He's been serving the 7th generation Yakumo, and he's serving the main Yakumo, and he continues serving Yotaro in the future. Like, he's just this old man who's just been a servant his whole life, and it's very touching. And all of these different characters. There's so many characters I couldn't even name. And it's like, while I would say that Yakumo is probably like the main character of the story, like, it doesn't feel like he's the only main character. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many characters that get a lot of screen time, and it's very neat because of that. I also like the story struck a lot of really good chords with me in that, like, it had really funny moments, it had really tragic moments, it had really heartwarming moments, and I really like the relationship between the characters in that I am a sucker for shows and movies where two characters are brothers and they are like bonded by their brotherhood, or two
Is that because you have a brother, David?
I have a twin brother, and yes, I love him very much. Or stories where there are two people who are like brothers or like sisters, whatever, and they like that bond, is so strong, basically. And there is that with Kikuhiko and Sukiroku when they're learning Rakugo. There's a really strong bond with them, even though there's a rivalry later on in their lives, and not just with their Rakugo performances and also over the geisha. There's a lot of strength in their care for one another. They do really care for each other genuinely. They were raised together, basically. They grew up so strong, and it's so touching, Ethan.
I'll take your word for it, David.
Also, one of the things I liked about this is that it's like probably one of the most fulfilling anime I've seen in a long, long time, in the sense that it's a complete story and it's wrapped up in 24 episodes. Woo! The first episode is a little bit longer than normal. Like, I think it's like about double the time, because they want to really like explain what Rakugo is,
right.
and explain some of the backstory and stuff like that, and kind of build up to the show they're telling. But the show itself is just, yes, it's so dang fulfilling. There's like all this closure, so much closure. It's really, really good, and I really like it a lot.
Is there any closure?
It's a lot of closure. Your dog, or you like closure? But yeah, so like, and there's a lot I can say about this. The show. The animation style is not it's not very fantastic or amazing. Like, there's not a lot of things they did like this show didn't seem like it had a huge budget compared to other shows like Konosuba or One Punch Man, like you mentioned. It doesn't have a lot of big like action-y, like over the top, big amazing.
Why would anybody watch it then?
Because the things they do with their animation is very well done. They do a lot of things to emphasize what the characters are doing when they're performing the Rakugo, and there's a lot of emphasis on the Rakugo performances themselves. In fact, throughout the show, we're able to see several different Rakugo stories that have been passed down through the generations, almost in their entirety. You're able to see the story told from start to finish. Sometimes you see parts of them as people are watching them on the stage and commenting on them, and you get to see that. You get to see this dynamic of the characters watching a performer and judging him while he's performing the show. Be like, oh man, yeah, he did that story. I remember when I was a kid and I first heard that story. Or, oh man, this guy doesn't do this character very well at all. He just doesn't quite get it.
Sounds very judgmental.
It's very judgmental, but it's also very informative for the audience. With the Rakugo, though, also it's a lot of them are very funny stories, and most of the Rakugo stories are meant to be funny. There are some a little bit more tragic. In fact, Yakumo, the master, he tends to tell more grim stories in his later lives as his thoughts turn to more grim thoughts of like he becomes more this like fatal look on life, and that I'm not long for this world type thing. He starts telling these bleaker stories.
Like a grumpy old man.
Yeah, crotchety and paranoid. But no, he but yeah, and so there's a lot of animations, the quality done in the subtle movements of the characters when they're telling the stories, and you can tell the difference between. You can start as the show progresses. You start to tell the difference between someone who's doing a Rakugo performance well and someone who's doing it wrong or not doing it well enough or not grabbing the audience, not just because of the characters' reactions, but also maybe the audience's reactions, some of their audio, like, people cheering when there needs to be cheering, laughing when there needs to be laughing, those kinds of things. It's very interesting, and it's very well done, I think. The attention to detail is also very precise. There's several times where there's a story that's been told by a performer, and then someone else like comes back to that story, whether through a flashback or through another perspective. Like maybe there's a particular story in season 1 that's told in the past, and in season 2 it's in the future, and someone says they found a film of that story, and they show that film of that story, and the film is taken from the perspective of where the camera was and not where the audience originally saw the story told, but the story is still done in the same details. The hand motions, the gestures, everything is still precise. It's just a different angle. It's very well done. It was mind-boggling how precise it was, and it really, really sells the impact of the story. There's a lot of emphasis told on the characters and how they each individually perform Rakugo differently, because the stories, like I mentioned, are the same stories over and over again, and people come to see these stories over and over again because they come to see the performer perform it their way, and that's what's really, really neat. Whether it's like through voice acting and through the gestures or through their personality, something about these performers pulls these characters into it, and it's very neat to see this very well written story told about storytellers, and it's just very, very cool.
You're very, very cool.
And I also like that when I first saw when I first heard about the show, I wanted to know what Rakugo was, and so I YouTubed some English Rakugo performances. And when I did so, I was impressed. There were some really funny stories, and I was really happy with it. And when I started watching the show, some of the stories I had seen in real life are used in the show, and I was like, oh wow, this is fantastic. It really showed that the show like really did its research, and these are actual stories told legitimately, like, and these are stories that have been passed down from the past. So now I want to really talk about why I think the show is important, and I think part of it comes to that historical significance and also the cultural impact the show has. I think the show really, really sells the fact that Rakugo is a really cool art form, and it's one that's been around for a long time, and a lot of people have enjoyed it through the generations, and it's changed over the years. The show, some of the characters worry about how the Rakugo will change over the course of their lives or over the course of history, and Rakugo has changed over the course of history. Throughout the show, it's talked about how women don't perform Rakugo, and also how people that perform Rakugo only perform stories that have been written back in the early eras of Japan. They're the same stories that were written hundreds and hundreds of years ago. But in this show, they touch on, like, oh, what if a woman started doing Rakugo? What if Rakugo performers started doing new stories? How would that affect things? And it's very interesting. And especially since when I saw Rakugo, I saw women performing Rakugo.
That's true. Yeah,
and one of those women performed a story that was definitely not written hundreds of years ago, because she was talking about tsunderes, which is an anime term. So it was definitely not written before 1800. I'm sorry, but it's very cool, and like even without the Rakugo, I think the show is also really important because I think it's important that we have anime like this in that as an anime that tells stories about characters, strong characters that feel real, feel realistic, and they're not, you don't have to be over the top. There's not a lot of supernatural elements of this show. It's kind of a slice of life. There is a little bit of supernatural, but it's more on the sense of like Yakumo towards the end of his life starts to see things as he starts to see the other side and stuff like that. He starts to have visions of spooky things that haunt him or whatever. It's really interesting, and it's very, very touching, the stuff that goes on in this show. I cried so dang much, guys. You have no idea.
You also cry a lot, though.
Only sometimes.
This
anime knew where my buttons were, and it knew how to push them. But no, yeah, I think shows like this should be celebrated, and I think this particular show, while not very popular, I feel like came from a place of love. I think not just from the people who wrote it, but people like the original source material, but the people who animated it and all these different things. A lot of thought and direction was put into telling this great story about these characters. That's not necessarily historically accurate to like any of these characters being real or anything, but historically accurate to the impact of this art form and how it's affected people's lives and things like that, and how like death relates to it, and how all these different things, and just art in general. There's a lot of comparisons to like other struggling artists and things like that, trying to do something.
What artists struggle, David?
Trying to do something they
I know
love.
not of what you speak.
Trying to do something they love basically their entire lives, and it's very, very cool. And it's also like has a lot of really good messages about the bonds of family and things like that. And I'm a sucker for stories like that. Oh goodness gracious.
What a sucker. I, on the other hand, hate families. And, no, I get that. I understand that.
Yeah. The intro for the first season, I liked a lot. The intro for the second season was real creepy. But I think when I started to finish the show, you start to kind of understand why it is the way it is. And so I had a better appreciation for the opening. I know that's a big deal with a lot of anime reviewers, but no, I really liked it a lot. The music is great. They do a lot. Like so much direction is put into this. That's really well done, and I liked it a lot. And I've been basically trying to get everybody to watch it, and I hope anybody who hears this will start to watch it because it is quite good. Do you think you'll watch it, Ethan?
Probably not. Just gonna dash your hopes. I don't know. I may.
You might.
Again, for me, it's just gonna depend on what's within my grasp. If it's not on Netflix, I probably won't see it anytime soon.
One gripe I have with the show,
give me all them gripes,
which isn't much, is, and it's something that there's an anime reviewer I follow on YouTube called Arcada, who talked about when he did his review of the show, he gave it a stream it rating in that it's maybe not for everybody and stuff. And he talked about how his problem with the show, and I had a similar problem, but to me it didn't bother me that much, is that he didn't quite get the impact of all of the Rakugo performances in the show, in that whether it's comedic timing and how he talked about how we speak English, and so sometimes the way English is written and spoken, you'd think the punchline would be at the end of the sentence, while the way Japanese is written, it may not be the case. While also culturally their sense of humor is a little bit different than ours, and so he just felt like something was lost in translation, because there were times in the show where the audience was laughing, but he was not laughing because he didn't quite understand the joke. And I did feel that. I definitely felt that. But for me, the thing that made up for that, I think, and it's similar to what you mentioned with Blame, is that the show has a lot of context. There's a lot of context clues about people's things like that. And for me, there was a lot of stories where people were laughing, where people were laughing. People were singing where they were singing. And I was like, I don't understand why they're singing, or I don't understand why they're laughing. But I understand that this is a story that affects a lot of people. I understand that this is something that people put a lot of thought into. And the way they're told by different Rakugo performers still had an impact on me. In a way that I was just like, I could still appreciate it, even though I wasn't kind of getting the full picture. And something that came to my mind while I was, researching and thinking about this particular topic is, and I'm really curious about this, is if and when, I guess, because it may not ever happen, if this show gets dubbed, how would they address that? How would they tell stories in an English way that we would be able to get those reactions that we're expecting? How would they be able to translate what is being said or performed on stage in a way? Because for me, I think the performance aspect would be a no-brainer in that voice actors who do dubbing generally have a decent range, and so I think they could pretend to be actors very easily. But the writing of it would have to be different, and I'm curious as to how that would play out. And I'm willing to say I like the show enough that I would definitely watch that to see, because I really, really like when anime is dubbed, and I really like when anime is dubbed well, and I would really want this to be dubbed.
Amen. Gosh.
Excellent. So we'll see. We'll see. As far as I know, it's not licensed right now, so it may not be dubbing anytime soon. Nobody like Funimation or anybody's like picked it up or anything, so it may not be dubbed anytime soon. But it's good, and I liked it subbed. It's pretty new. I think season 2 just came out like the end of last year or the beginning of this year. But yeah, super duper good. And I ask anybody that watches, check it out. It's on Crunchyroll. If we had some sort of promo code, we'd put it here, but we don't. Crunchyroll sponsor us, please. Please.
Then maybe I'll watch your stuff.
Then maybe I don't know. I already paid them. I don't care. Or they don't care.
They don't.
But yeah. So yeah, do you have any questions or comments or concerns?
I think it's fine. I agree with your points of why it's important. Not having seen it, but I agree with your point that anime like this should be celebrated.
Definitely.
And should be seen. Yeah. So hopefully we'll get more along the same line. But yeah, that's the show. That's it.
Yeah. We're those nerds, you know.
We are. We have a Twitter now.
We do. Yes, we do. We made a Twitter. Is it at those nerds, you know? I think.
TNYK.
TNYK. That's right.
TNYK Pod.
TNYK
podcast.
Was
it pod or podcast?
Look it up.
We're real good at this. We are the best. Aquí estamos en la Twitters.
Oh, that's wrong.
Buscando nuestro nombre porque no sabemos porque somos idiots.
What?
So here we are
he's speaking that Spanish.
Here we are on Twitter looking for our name because we don't know our name because we're idiots.
You can follow us on Twitter at TNYK Pod.
Yep, at TNYK Pod. That's us. I think momentarily that's the only bit of social media we have.
Yeah, we're going to start getting a Facebook page. We're starting getting all kinds of cool stuff. But for now, that's what we got. We'll be able to reach out to you guys more soon. If you guys have some comments or whatever, you can hit us up there.
Yeah, let us know what you think. Let us know if there's anything you want us to talk about.
Yeah. Some things you think are interesting or nerdy.
Yarp. But that's it. That's cool. Hope y'all have a great week.
Thank y'all.
Bye. Bye.